that's soil. Look at that right there. This is the Egyptian Nile. Enough said here. What did the ancestors think? What did the ancestors think? What do they think about the soil, color of the soil? So far, the best evidence that we have that they believe the color to be red as well is a text titled by Egyptologists, The Destruction of Mankind. And that's part of a larger work called the Book of the Heavenly Cow. Now, here is the destruction of mankind in 1.5 pages in the Book of the Heavenly Cow. So you see that page and then this page, half that page. So this is where it starts, though. That's where it starts. So a brief summary of the destruction of mankind. Mankind plotted against Ra at a time when he had grown old and his bones were like silver, his flesh was like gold, and his hair was like lapis lazuli. He calls together his council of gods, in particular Nun, the nectar of the primordial waters at creation and earthly inundation. He tells them that humanity is plotting against him, but doesn't want to slay the people until he has heard their views, the council's views. They respond by asking Ra to send down his eye as Hathor, the alter ego of Sekhmet, to kill him. Hathor returns later to say she has slaughtered the people in the desert hills. The goddess describes herself as wading in their blood. This seems to frighten Ra, who wants her to stop. He calls for red ochre from Elephantine and barley for beer to be crushed. So the Elephantine, the red ochre is going to be ground up and the barley for beer is going to be crushed in order to concoct a mixture that resembles the blood of humans. The end result is 7,000 jars of beer. Next morning, the goddess continues to travel south to continue the slaughter and finds the fields covered in red beer. She drinks the beer thinking that it's the blood of humans. She returns drunk and is clearly no longer able to complete the total destruction of mankind. She is welcomed back in peace by Ra. Now that's a summary, but let's read a little bit of the actual text because some of the information that was not brought out in the summary is really important. So we're going to run through this quickly and let me start this process. So again, we hear, right, mankind's plotting against Ra, grown old, hair old, right? He asked counsel from his council of gods. They say, let your eye go. In other words, send down your eye as Hathor. Okay, so he does that, and then Hathor comes back, right? She comes back all giddy. She slaughtered the humans. Ra is frightened. He says, let me do something about this. He says to his messengers, go to Elephantine and bring me red ochre, hematite, in great quantities. Now, this is very important because right here, actually, I have to just come over here. This is the word for red ochre. It's Didi. Didi. Okay? This is the mineral determinative for Didi. All right? So that's red hematite. It's hematite, right? Now, what's interesting about that is Didi, hematite, red ochre, they're all the same, right? Synonymous. Well, hematite is a form of what? Iron oxide. Iron oxide. Now, you won't find Didi in Gardner's dictionary, but you will find the word Didi in Faulkner's dictionary. And also, if you go to Hieroglyphs Step by Step, it's a website, you'll find in one of the dictionaries that they provided, the dictionary that they provided, it seems to be consistent with Faulkner, you'll find it there. So let's continue now. So he got the red ochre in great quantity, red ochre was brought to him, asked if God ordered the priest to grind the ochre, right? Made servants crush the barley, red ochre was put into the beer mash, became like human blood, 7,000 jars of beer were made, and then the Ra says, it is good, Nefer Puset, it is good. If I will save mankind by it. Yui er meket, Rinachu er es. Okay? That is, I will save mankind. Now, dawn, then what happens? He rises to before dawn, interesting, and the sleeping drought is poured out. And when that happens, then, right, we say the next morning, what happens? Hathor comes, drinks the beer, et cetera, right? Gets drunk. And she's welcomed back in peace by right. Then he says, oh, I'll skip that. Then he says, let intoxicating drink be made for her at all the yearly festivals. Okay? Now, it's my contention that this story concerns the ancient Egyptian understanding of natural phenomena, expressed vividly through the telling of a mythological story. Annual drought-like conditions that threatened the Egyptian population's existence was followed by the yearly inundation of the River Nile, carrying fertile red silt, iron oxide, deposited on its banks, which the people believe came from Aswan Elfantine and is the source of Egypt's agricultural success. Now take a look at this chart. Right? This is a chart that compares the destruction of mankind, TDO, as it compares to observable natural phenomena or the existing factual record. So the similarities between TDO and the geologic record, right, of the Nile Basin is simply too coincidental to be ignored. And the importance of red soil to the Egyptian population's existence is the dominant theme in the story. There may be other themes, but it is the dominant theme in the story. The command to let drink be made for her, Hathor, at all the yearly festivals, can be seen as a rationale for particular actual festivals, and a hint at their true ritual value to the return of, and the start of bringing forth of the inundation, and the return of that red to reddish brown, sediment-filled, life-saving water. Now, I hope lots of debate takes place to face head-on these issues raised today, and even at eventual acknowledgement of the red soil contribution to this agricultural success of ancient Egypt. But this will require a reckoning of sorts involving the following topic, as well as others where they make mention of some black soil. Okay? This is King Tutankhamun's headdress, and this is a statue. Now, this is one of two statues. The first, or this statue was in the Cairo Museum. The other one was headed over to the Grand Egyptian Museum, and they've opened up now. So this is as of June 2025, original picture that we took. The other one, again, is over at Grand Egyptian Museum. So look at the description card. Right here, the black color of the skin symbolizes the rich black silt of the Nile's inundation. Now, this statement regarding the significance of the black skin is obviously problematic given the conclusion to be drawn from the presentation today. The color of the silt is red. I have low confidence that this issue will be taken seriously by the museum authorities, though, because I can only assume that the current excuse, in other words, the excuse that the rich black silt is responsible for the black skin, that excuse is deliberate to relieve the museum attendee of the cognitive dissonance they will experience in light of what has been propagandized to them for decades. Because you see, this image, the fantasy of this image sells. This is a computer-generated, so-called reconstruction of Tutankhamun's facial features. The physical, biological reality of this image would not sell. This image sells, this does not. One more, I think we have time for one more. This is Amun-Min. This relief hangs in the Luxor Museum, Luxor, Egypt. And note that the term again, symbolic. What? In colored representations of the god's skin is always black, perhaps symbolic. Okay, that's what the term was used right here. Symbolizes, now we're here to another. So in other words, It can't simply be the actual recognition and representation of the black skin. There has to be some symbolism behind it, and they're stuck. But now we come with the red soil issue. Anyway, brothers and sisters, in conclusion, there is no black land versus black, or black land versus red land. It's all red land.